more back function.
We're here at the fourth and final round of the Gurston Championship, but in amongst the entries we get a few unusual cars. A pair of Dodge Vipers have been competing here on and off over the years, driven by Bjorn and Nadine. Both very spectacular bits of kit, but with slight differences in the technical specification. Nadine, can you explain that to us?
They are pretty much identical twins. I set the cars up and mine does run a few pounds more boost on the supercharger. The gearboxes are much the same, we've got sequentials in, the diffs are much the same, the gear ratios are all the same.
So fairly radically modified from a standard Viper?
Fairly. I'm still on standard brakes. Both cars are on standard road car suspension. We've upgraded Bjorn's brakes a little bit, but still without ABS, so hauling up nearly 2 tonne of car because the roll cage added a fair bit of weight that was needed for safety. It gets quite interesting sometimes into carousel when you think you can just do that little bit extra and late brake.
That certainly sounds a lot of weight and a lot of speed that you're carrying into carousel as well.
Yes, yeah, it gets exciting.
Now, I'd have thought somewhere like a straight line drag strip event would be pretty appropriate for these cars as well. And I understand you were at Brighton yesterday. How did that go, Bjorn?
It was good fun. It was that's more of a show event really, with lots of spectators and atmosphere and amazing cars to look at. It's not that grippy really. We can usually do a lot better at a place like Santa Pod, but still it's a fantastic event, and I wouldn't miss it for anything. It was good fun. Yeah.
So compare the times between Brighton and Santa Pod. What sort of time would you pull at Brighton and then over the quarter mile at Santa Pod?
I did the other day 11.2 at the pod, and I was only able to get it just over 12 on that strip at Brighton, but you did better. You did an 11.3 at Brighton and a 10.3 at the pod. So again, she's lighter than me.
That's your excuse. A diet this winter then, and Nadine will carry on preparing the car and tweaking more power out of it to help you overcome that. Very sensible too.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck this afternoon. Have a good time,
Thanks
and we look forward to see what tweaks you do over the winter. Thank you.
It's the early morning practice session at Gurston Down, and pretty murky as Nadine Geary launches the V10 Dodge Viper off the start line for the first of 2 morning practice runs. But once the fog lifts, she'll go on to win the class in the afternoon's competition. Steve Butts is certainly hoping the weather will improve. He's climbing rapidly up the order on the Gurston Championship table and holds 4th place coming into the final round. With a good performance today, he could just take the title in his lightweight Lotus Elites, but he'll need good track conditions. If Derek Mullis's famous Mini, Bright Eyes, can live up to its nickname, it would certainly be an advantage in these conditions. But with over 200 class wins under his belt, they won't be a problem for the twice times Hill champion, who probably knows his way up Gurston blindfolded. Minis in various forms are still popular in hill climbs, and never more so than at Gurston. Sharing this one with Father Graham, who competed at the very first Gurston meeting in 1967, Neil Masters lies 5th overall in the championship in his slark-tuned 7-port Mini. Jim White's 16-valve version is the fastest Mini ever seen at Gurston, and he's the current championship leader. But with Steve Butts coming up on the rails, he'll have to work hard today to grab the title. Chasing Neil Masters hard, Anthony Orchard lies 6th in the championship in his Westfield Megabusa. Andy Bascom's hanging on to 3rd overall in this year's series in his twin-cam Warrior Powered Escort. With championship scores based on improvement on a class record-based target time, like every driver in the series, he'll be trying to get as close as possible to his own class record. Defending champion Mike Rudge set his own target time with a record-breaking run last year in his Westfield Duratec. He's hanging on to second overall behind White in this year's series, but coming under fire now as Bascombe and Butts, who's already on record pace with his Elise, step up the pace. Holding down the championship's 7th place, Keith Diggle is getting close to Gurston's magic half-minute barrier in his self-built WEV Sports Libra car with 2-litre Cosworth BDG power. Having recently moved down to the southwest from Yorkshire, former Harewood Hillclimb champion James Blackmore is rapidly finding form on his new home hill and lies 8th overall in his motorcycle-powered OMS Hayabusa. Dave Gardner is really flying in his first year in John Forsyth Spillbeam Cosworth V8. Already with several outright wins on his slate, another here at Gurston could give him this year's top 10 challenge title in the series run alongside the main Gurston Championship. The son of Hillclimb legend Tony Marsh, Simon Marsh is having a great first season aboard his father's V6 Opel powered Gould. It's quite a step up from the Mallet Clubman's car that he also drives on a regular basis. With fog still hanging over this opening practice session, let's go over to Tony Wiltshire in the paddock.
Now, I've been around speed events for some years, but always on the scene has been Tim Painter and Andy Fraser. These days you've been driving this Metro 6R4 for a few years. Took some time out and ran a Gould single-seater. But the 6R4 itself is a very interesting car, isn't it? And this one's a little bit special. Can you tell us about that, Andy?
Rover produced 200 6R4s for rallying, international rallying. And back in '86, when the FIA banned all Group B rally cars, they started to come on the market. And so Clubman were scrambling to buy these cars because they were very competitive for rallying. They hadn't been used on the hills, they hadn't been used on circuits. And we thought, come in about 1991, we thought we were coming back together to do some more hill climbing together, and we thought we'd try something different from what we've been used to with the single-seaters. We went up to the motor racing show, and this car was on the motoring newsstand in a different colour, and David Appleby, who was then working with Tony Pond, they needed something to promote this new Rover 100. And so they took the idea, or they took the principle to Dove Engineering, and they produced this bodywork, which is carbon Kevlar bodywork, based around a 6R4 chassis, and there were a series of options of engines in the 6R4s. In the 200, they built them with 250 brake horsepower, rear engine, 4-wheel drive with a synchromesh gearbox, and then they built about a dozen which had a full international rally engine in with a dog box. We bought this car in late 92, early 93, and took it straight onto the hills, and we spent I think it was probably 5 or 6 years developing it specifically for hills. In 97 we then decided we'd got as far as we could with the 6R4, so we then thought a Gould would be a good idea, as everybody seemed to be running them, and we got in fairly early, but we had to wait rather a long time for the GR37 to come along. But eventually we had it, and we ran it in 97, and we came first and second in the Gurston Hillclimb Championship in the first year, and second in the second year in 98, and who knows, next year and maybe another project on the cards.
Well, it's great to see the Metro back out, because it is a spectacular car, and both of you guys drive it pretty hard and have great fun in it. But the hint there of something else in the offing for next year, right, that's very interesting. Yes. But either of you going to comment on that?
No, I think at this stage we know what we're going to drive next year, and it'll be as different as the Metro is, and as different as the Gould was. So, don't hold your breath. But we'll be out in April on test day with something that's spectacularly different.
Well, you've got us all guessing, and we look forward to that. It's always great to see you guys around the paddock, because there's always a lot of banter with both of you, a lot of humour, but Tim's hat really has pushed the boat out this season, hasn't it?
Yes, it really has. Yeah.
I'm surprised Judith allows you to wear that.
Well, look, I'll just show you.
Put it back on quick.
Keep the sun off my head, you know. Yeah. Judith, she sure does allow me to wear it, yeah.
Well, actually, there's a story behind this hat, because the slowest driver always has to wear it. And you see, if I actually wear it, it's too small small for me, which sort of says which says something about our driving skills.
Yeah, keep on winning, Andy. Okay, guys. Well, enjoy the final run of the season, and we'll look forward to that, and we'll look forward to seeing what the hell you come out in next year. Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Since the international Group B rally cars were outlawed in 1986, several cars in this category have appeared in hill climbing sports Libra class. Metro 6R4s have been among the most popular, but none has pleased the crowds more than this lightweight jigsaw liveried version of Tim Painter and Andy Fraser. A great supporter of motorsport in the southwest through his Froome-based builders merchants company Tipperdale, Tim also sponsors Woolbridge Motor Club's annual Longleat Hill Climb. It's a couple of years or so since we've seen this car on the hills, but it's great to see it back again and to hear that distinctive V6 bark. And that promise of something even more spectacular for next year has got us all guessing. So as we near the end of this practice session for the final round of the Gates of Brockenhurst Gurston Downhill Climb Championship, let's look at the state of play before the all-important competition runs. At the moment, Jim White leads the way in his Mini from defending champion Mike Rudge's Westfield and Andy Bascombe in the Escort, but charging through the field after setting identical record times at the last two rounds are Steve Butts and the Elise. If they can maintain that pace in this series, which is based, remember, on the closest approach to target times, Butts could just snatch what will be his third Gurston title. Can he do it? We'll find out after the break. We're nearing the end of morning practice for the final round of this year's Gurston Championship. It's still a bit misty, so let's ride with two of the championship front runners to see how they tackle the conditions. At least we have a roof over our heads to protect us from the autumn weather as we ride with Andy Bascombe and his 16-valve twin-cam Connaught Warrior powered Escort. One of two saloons in the championship top three, Andy's been knocking on the door of Richard Marshall's class record for some while now and really needs to break it to give himself a chance of improving his overall position. He knows he's got to push hard from the word go, and although conditions are far from ideal at the moment and it's only practice, Andy's determined to get on the pace as soon as possible. He's really throwing the car through the carousel complex and up into Ashes before getting hard on the right hand pedal for the run up and over Burke's Rise. This is where the Warrior's power really tells, and that's a good practice run for Bascombe. Mike Rudge won the championship last year in his Westfield with its Mark Schillerber built Duratec engine. He set himself a hard task to follow it up in 2008 by breaking the class record on his championship winning run. So far this year he's not quite matched that pace and lies just a single point, effectively 1 second, behind championship leader Jim White. Like Bascombe, he's giving everything on this final practice run, really working hard through carousel as he wrestles with the wheel, the little Westfield bounding over the curves as he fights to keep it on the tarmac. This is a quick run, but he'll really have to find serious pace this afternoon if he wants to hang on in the top three. The fog's gone now and we're into the afternoon's competition runs. So let's go over to Tony Wiltshire, who's talking to Neil Masters.
Neil, how did your first run go?
It went very well, actually. It was a good one for the bank. It was about half a second outside of our original class record time, so it would have scored about 7.38 points, I think. So decent one, but really need to try and do better than that. And if I can get below my personal best, which is a 36.92, then I would be doing very well today. I'd be very pleased with that.
Well, we'll watch that with interest. I know fourth place is a long way off for you, a very tall order. But you've done a lot of development work on the car this year.
There's been a fair bit of development. There's also been some backward development in certain ways. We've tried the injection system on this particular head, which didn't work particularly well, probably more due to the head than anything else. So we've gone back to a carb setup, which is a bit more rudimentary, and you have to be a bit more of an animal with a car. But it's handling well now. We've had a consistent few events, and so I'm just kind of hoping that it will keep going until the end of today, really.
Well, that's the objective. The end of the season, we always start wondering about what's going to happen next year. Got any ideas for this winter?
Yeah, I've got some ideas for this year, for next year rather, and I think we'll probably have to go the 16 valve route, same as Mr. White. What guys that will take at the moment, I really cannot guess, but I would think we'll be going down that route.
Well, we'll respect your discretion there and watch with interest for next season. Jim's certainly made that car very effective this year, and the power has shown, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, a fantastic motor, very, very good drivers, both of them. Respect for both of those guys, and it's set a bit of a new marker, I suppose, for this class.
Absolutely. Well, Neil, best of luck for the final runs, and look forward to see your car out next season.
Thank you very much indeed. Cheers.
So here's Neil's final run in the Mini. He's lying third in class at the moment behind Jim and Stephen White in the championship leading car, and needs to find more time not only to challenge the class leaders, but with several drivers breathing down his neck, to hang on to his championship 5th place. That was a good fast run through the difficult hollow bend, and Neil's braking smoothly into Carousel, which pays off with a rapid passage through the hill's tight centre section. Up over Deersley and into Ashes, the Mini lifts a wheel through the all-important left-hander, and now it's full power up and over Burke's Rise to the finish. He needs to improve on his 37.42 opener, and he doesn't do it. That could prove costly as far as the championship's concerned. Derek Mullis is one of the most experienced drivers at Gurston. The oval greengrocer has over 200 class wins with his famous Mini Bright Eyes, and has won the Gurston Championship twice, but he's only 12th on the table at the moment. Running in one of the most competitive classes at the venue for 1400cc modified production cars, and almost all of them minis, Mullis is still able to pull the odd win out of the bag, and today lies 4th in this 10-car class behind Neil Masters. He's using all the road out of Carousel, and as he exits Ashes, the limited slip diff takes over and pulls the car across the road in typical Mini style. But he's heading for the finish now and stops the clocks on 38.19. And that time will give him a top 10 finish in this year's championship. Let's go back to Tony, who's with another of today's top 6 championship contenders.
We're with Anthony Orchard. Anthony runs a Westfield with a Hayabusa engine in it. Anthony, you're in 6th place in the championship at the moment. How's your scoring been this year?
Not very well. I've had a problem with shock absorbers this year. I ran with no shocks at all last meeting and managed a 33, trying to claw some points. New shocks for this meeting. But I've not had a very good first run of the afternoon, unfortunately. We'll see what comes next run.
Was that just an untidy run? Had you been quicker in practice?
I was quicker in practice and had a little bit of a moment in between Carousel 1 and 2. I've been airborne too, but still managed a 33.3. So,
and on past performance, what's the car capable of, Anthony?
I should be able to get very close to the class record. I've done a 32.66, but it's driver, I think, and not car.
And the gap up to 5th place, is that closable?
I wish. That's what I'm hoping. That's my best hope for today, is to claw back my 5th place that I lost. I was hoping for top 3 at the beginning of the year, but there's a lot of guys that are really, really quick, and it's hard to catch them.
Well, certainly you finished well last year in the championship.
Yeah, it was another struggle with tyres. There's a lot to learn. It isn't as simple as it looks.
No, absolutely. I mean, every second or every fraction of a second counts, and there are a lot of factors go together to put a good run in.
Yeah, the first 5 seconds are easy to knock off your time, but the last 5/10 is killing me.
Yeah, and kills the bank account as well, I think.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a fair investment. Let's say, fair investment.
Well, Anthony, best of luck this afternoon, and put a tidy last run in, eh?
I hope so. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
6th on the championship table, Anthony Orchard has been up against a stiff target this season in the shape of Brodie Branch's Caterham Hayabusa record of 32.26. Running a similar engine, the Westfield driver has been creeping ever closer to that elusive record, despite the odd mechanical problem, and this run looks like one of his best yet. A slight lift for high, but he's on the power again. Up into Carousel, he uses all the road and quite a lot of the rumble strips, but it's all well controlled. And determined to get back that 5th place in the championship, he's aiming to beat that personal best 32.66. He's done it by 0.05 of a second and takes that sought after championship 5th place. Now here's Laurie Cooper in his Westfield Vauxhall. This is quick in the carousel, a bit too quick, and the car spins into the infield. Local driver Bruce Dean from Salisbury should know his way up Gurston in the Formula 27, but he'll have a job to sort out this total lack of front end grip on the exit of Ashes, and that's going to mean a bit of pushing for our hard-working marshals. It's always good to see the E-Type of Jaguar restorer Paul Slade in action at Gurston. With the straight 6 XK engine working hard, he powers the coupe out of Ashes and over Burke's Rise on the way to third in class. But the man in charge of the big Mark sports car class today is Steve Holly. Braking hard into carousel, the big 5-litre TVR Griffith rumbles up to Ashes. Another squeal as the inside wheel lifts and Steve's on his way to the class win. Keith Diggle and his immaculate WEV have been the combination to beat in the 2-litre Sports Libra class this year. That half-minute barrier still proves elusive, but this class-winning shot will confirm Keith's 7th place on the championship table. Still not entirely happy with his big SPA Judd sports car, Chris Connell is sharing the unique twin-engine Force SR8 with Sue Hayes today. It proves a good decision for Chris as he takes the big Sports Libra win. Former Gurston champion Rodney Thorne is entrusted with Connell's SPA today in an effort to sort out the big V8's handling problems. Second in class, half a second behind his benefactor, was a good result for Rodney. Let's hope the feedback proved beneficial. This could be the most important run of the day for Steve Butts. If he could approach his June class record time, which he equalled in July, he could take the championship lead from Jim White. Away from the line and down the hill into Hollow, Steve's hard on the power. Now here comes the long left-hander. Will he take it flat? There's a suggestion of a lift, but it's still too fast and Lees gets away from him. Now he's riding the fastest lawnmower in the world as the car spins all the way to carousel. Off comes the roof and the Lotus comes to rest, fortunately without making contact with the scenery. The ever-present marshals are soon on the spot, but that was a serious setback to Steve's championship hopes. The pressure is well and truly on for his second run. So what caused the spin? Tony Wiltshire caught up with Steve later to find out.
We're here with Steve Butts. Steve, absolutely crucial to put a banker in on your first run, and you spun at carousel.
Yeah, it was a bit disappointing. The back went light coming into the hollow corner, and I just was a passenger. And I noticed the roof came off halfway along as well, so I'm going to have to go into the next round with no roof. So,
any idea as to what caused you to spin? Because most uncharacteristic of you to have a moment here.
I took some expert advice from you, good self, and I've tried some different tyre pressures. And since all morning, the car has felt a little bit shaky at the back, not quite planted. So I tried some more rear wing, but it looks like it was probably the tyre pressures that are perhaps the problem.
So, well, practice is for trying different ideas, but if it felt funny in practice, then you've obviously got some issues there to cure.
Yeah, I did a very, very good run in practice, so I left it alone, but just ran a little bit more rear wing to help plant it down a bit, but it wasn't enough.
Well, certainly your times were on the pace in practice, weren't they, for a good score?
It was 300ths off my personal best, so and I haven't gone that fast for 3 years. So it's all to do for the next run.
Well, the pressure's on, Steve. You're obviously going to be looking at Jim's times and seeing what sort of time Jim sets, and Andy Bascombe and Mike as well, of course. So you'll be able to gauge that and put a run in that sort of is relatively safe, one would hope.
Well, I've got 0.22 seconds in the bank against Jim, and overall I think I'm about a second ahead of Mike. I don't know how far ahead I am of Andy, but they've got to do some blistering times to get close to myself and Jim. So I'll look at Jim's time and work out how fast I've got to go.
Okay, Steve, we'll contemplate that, and just remember, never listen to me.
Okay, I'll bear that in mind.
Best of luck, Steve.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Join us after the break for more Hillclimb action. One-make classes are always well supported at Gurston Championship events, and none more so than those for Austin Healey cars. These days they're split into two sections, and Austin Healey Sprites have their own division. Here's Colin Gale's early Frog Eye in fast and furious action. Competing on equal terms against the big 3000s, Stuart Bullis has in the past won his club's Healy Championship outright. He's on course for a class win today and snatches a class record from co-driver Robin Johnson by 600ths of a second. Ben Goff too is on top form in the Reliant class aboard his Scimitar GTE. Inside his own 3-year-old class record on both runs, he finally leaves it at 35.71. Back to the ever competitive Mini class now, and here's Phil Eaton. His Mini is not so radically modified as those of the class front runners, but it's still capable of sub 40-second times. Here's another one now for 7th place in class. Cranbourne-based engine builder Steve Harris has been building and racing Minis since the days when he worked at Daniel Richmond's famous Downton Engineering Company. He's on his way to 5th in class. A regular winner of Gurston's 2-litre modified production sports car class, Terry Luff missed most of last season after a big accident at Hollow Bend in April. With only the bonnet left from the Westfield's original bodywork, the Bristolian is back on top form this year and scores another class win in the Vauxhall powered car. Trying hard to catch regular sparring partner Steve Holly in the Big Mark Sports class, Ben Stapley gets his big Datsun 240's head a little out of shape at Carousel. Graham Rudge has been campaigning this Mark II Escort for more years than he'd care to remember. He's up against Andy Bascom's Rapid Escort Warrior in the class today, but he holds nothing back out of Ashes on his way to 2nd in class. Saltash driver Derek Kessel enjoys his Gurston events in this space frame Maguire Mini. He has to run the car in the Sports Libre class, so he's often a little outgunned by the purebred sports cars, but today he'll finish halfway up a strong 11-car field. Now we're on board with another man who has everything to play for, Championship leader Jim White. But Jim misses a gear away from the start line. He's on the back foot now and gives the Mini everything into hollow. The car twitches around the fast left-hander and Jim has to work hard to keep it in check. Leaving his braking as late as possible for Carousel, he's up into the complex, working hard at the wheel as the Mini bounds over the curves. Up and over Deer's Leap, he hangs on to 2nd gear before flinging the car into Ashes. Put hard down over Burke's Rise, he's into 3rd gear. Jim thinks about top just before crossing the line, but he's already there, and 37.29 is a disappointing result. So for White too, everything will hang on his final run. Back in the paddock, he discusses the run with Tony.
Jim, how was your first run?
Not too bad. It was a little bit scary. It slid around a bit, missed a gear, but we still got a few points. So.
Yeah, mid-7 I think on the points, but I haven't calculated that exactly, but you certainly fared a little better than Steve Butts, your main championship rival.
Yeah, I couldn't get the rain, so maybe I'll just get him to spin.
Well, we'll see. We've had a word with Steve. He's sort of put the car back together, and we'll see how he gets on. But certainly the pressure's on him, and you've got a banker in there. I think that's pretty respectable, haven't you?
Still got to be in the low 36s today, or even the high 35s, I think. But we'll see.
Well, mid 36s in practice, so the time's there in you and the car.
Yeah.
Best of luck for this afternoon, Jim.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Cheers.
Andy Bascom's holding 3rd place in the championship, but he really does need a record-breaking run to get on terms with leader Jim White. It's a tall order, but the man from Verwood is certainly trying as he launches the Escort Warrior off the line and down the hill into hollow. He's put the car on its roof here in the past, so there's just a suggestion of a lift as he turns into the left-hander, but now it's foot hard down again before getting hard on the brakes for Carousel. Now comes the elbow work as Bascom manhandles the car up through the complex. He must get into the low 34s to stand any chance of improving his championship position, and he's trying everything, but on this run the time's just not there. It's full power over the finish line, but 35.24 won't be enough.
We're with Andy Bascom. Andy's in 3rd place in the championship. but needs to take a massive 0.8 of a second out of Mike Rudge to claw back second place. Andy, how did the first run go?
Not very successful, I'm afraid. A few problems off the start line, but we got one more time run to go, so hoping.
Well, you top guys, the pressure's getting to you a bit, I think, because Jim missed a gear, Steve Butts had a fairly monumental spin, and we've yet to see what Mike Rudge has done. So you've all had a few issues, so I think it is all going to come down to that last run, isn't it?
Pressure's on all of us, I think. It's there for all four of us to walk away with either a second or third. I think Jim's got it in the bag, but it's all on the last run.
Well, we wish you best of luck, and we'll watch with some interest on that, Andy. Have a good run.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Cheers.
Well, we've just seen Jim White. Now let's see how son Stephen fares in the Mini. Jim's just set a 37.29 to lead the class, but Stephen will want to do better than that. He's already brought the car into 9th place on the championship table, but things are pretty open at the tail end of the top 10, and he could move right up the order with a good run. This looks quick as he hurtles into Carousel. His dad left the car in second gear here, but Stephen grabs first and holds it all the way to Ashes, hanging a lot of revs on the hybrid A-Series unit. That could just pay off. Out of Ashes, he's up through the gears and over Burke's Rise. .36.92 leads the class. It's a great run and moves Stephen up 3 places to 6th overall in the championship. Here's defending champion Mike Rudge. He's lying 2nd overall in the championship now, but with 3 of the 4 rounds to count, consistent running this year means that he'll be dropping a relatively good score. The best he can hope for is to stay ahead of Andy Bascombe in the Escort as Jim White and Steve Butts fight it out for the overall title. But as we said before, Rudge has given himself a relative mountain to climb this year with that record target he set last season. As always, the Welshman is really going for it. Here we get a superb view of Mike and the Westfield Duratec really pushing hard, using all of the narrow 12-foot wide roads at speeds of over 100 miles an hour. Having made short work of the Carousel complex, the nimble Westfield powers out of Ashes and up over the rise towards that tricky S-bend over the finish. 31.30 is within 3/10 of his record, but will that be enough?
We're with Mike Rudge. Mike is in 2nd place in the championship, but of course is the outgoing champion from 2007. Mike, any chance of 1st place?
No chance whatsoever is the honest truth. I would have to take about a second approximately anyway off my record that I set last year to obtain a chance of winning the championship overall, which is nigh on impossible.
But a fair battle going between yourself and Andy Bascombe for 3rd place?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, Andy's been, initially at the beginning of the season I had the upper hand on Andy, but I've noticed he's been creeping away at his class record, and now with his one bad score to drop, it puts him more or less level pegging with myself. So yeah, it's all on today really. It's going to be a good battle.
Yeah, I mean, amazingly for this year we've managed to have dry events at every round of this championship, so there's some very valid scores to be dropped this time round.
That's true, yeah. I mean, unfortunately for myself, I've been Mr. Consistent this season, so all my rounds I've been about a 10th difference each round, where there's a gentleman called Steve Butts who's got a real bad score to drop, and he's the outsider that could, leapfrog us all and maybe take the championship overall.
Yeah, we saw Steve spin on his first run, so pressure's getting to him, and the other guys as well at the head of the class. So they were all struggling with fairly tatty runs. How was your run, Mike?
Well, probably tatty would be a good description, but not a major problem. Just really pushing on to try and get down to my record, and tail out there. All those couple of attempts, add to a bad run really.
Well, it's a spectacular record that you set last year, so it is going to take some catching, isn't it? And you acknowledge that as being the problem at the start of the season for holding on to this championship.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, I haven't done anything to the car from last season. As I mentioned, earlier in the season, I did put new tyres on the car. Unfortunately, that hasn't really made a great deal of difference. So yeah, I mean, that was one of those runs that you get on a real good day. It all goes well. Let's hope it happens today, but who knows.
Talking about doing things to the car this time of year, we think about next season. Any ideas?
Well, my engine builder's actually gave me a phone call last week, and he did say to me, any chance you'd be dropping your engine down? One of the things he had in mind was a steel crankshaft, which would enable me to rev the engine higher. Whether that's going to be an advantage at places like Gurston, I don't know, where torque is probably more important than out-and-out horsepower at the top of the rev range. But that's one possibility, but other than that, no, I haven't really thought about it.
The engine builder for this engine is Mark Schillerbeer down in Cornwall, I understand.
Yes, I've used Mark for many years now. I had a Mark 1 RS2000 where I initially went with him, and he built my Pinto engine, and from there on I've always used him, and he's built me a cracking engine this time round in the shape of a Ford Duratec.
I certainly know Mark, and he builds some cracking engines both for stock cars and speed events, so it'll be interesting to see what developments and ideas he's got.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed, he's never let me down in the past, and every time he's had an engine of mine I've always gone faster, so when I've had it back, that is. So yeah, I'm going to keep my fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll be the same again.
Well, we'll look forward to that with interest, Mike. Best of luck for the final runs today and your outgoing championship year.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I will show you in the cup, ready to give it to Jim White or maybe Steve Butts.
Well done. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Join us after the break for more Hillclimb action.
Running alongside the Gurston Championship is the Gurston Top 10 Challenge, where you score points for being the fastest of all of the competitors overall. At the moment, Simon Marsh is running FTD. Simon, how was the run?
Exciting. I remembered to switch on the traction control, which helped because my second practice run was a bit exciting coming out of Ashes. And I also tried leaving the line in second gear. So it all came together quite well, and arrived in a tidy fashion at the bottom of the carousel, and did 130 over the line, I think. And I was just on the rev limiter in fifth gear just after the line. So I was really pleased with it. It felt like a quickish run. I thought I'd see a bit more of improvement on my previous practice time, but nevertheless I'm delighted and amazed to have got FTD so far. But I know that Dave Gardner missed a gear, so I'm sure he'll pit me later on this afternoon.
Well, those guys, Dave Gardner, John Forsyth and James Blackmore, they're all in pitching for the championship, aren't they, or the Top 10 Challenge?
That's right, yeah. I opened the programme this morning and my father said, "Oh, you're in the top 10 there." He said 9th equal or something like that. So I had no idea, actually, to be honest, and delighted to see that I was amongst the top 10, yeah.
So you'll be moving up through the rankings there today with that score, won't you?
Well, I hope so. The plan for next year is for me to drive more of this car, shelve the Malak for a while. I think Dad's very keen for me to try and get into the top 10 a bit more often, or the top 12 runoffs perhaps. So yeah, looking forward to next year. We're going to make a few adjustments and improvements to the car, hopefully over the winter, and maybe a new set of tyres, which will help. So,
well, you're certainly looking at home in the car now, and it's what, your 5th time of driving it?
I think I'm starting to lose count, but about the 5th time, yes. Probably my 3rd event at Gurston, maybe 4th, I can't remember now. I've done 2 at Shelsley, I think, and this is probably my 4th here, yeah.
Well, look forward to a full-on season next season, and watch for your final run today.
Thank you very much.
Simon Marsh has enjoyed a great year in his famous Father Tony's Gould Opel V6. After finishing 2nd overall at July's Gurston Championship round, he went on to Shelsley Walsh and set a time fast enough to qualify for the British Championship runoff. Currently lying FTD on only his 4th drive in the car, this run's even faster. So competitive is the pace today that he'll eventually have to settle for 3rd place. But with just 2 scores, he'll still finish 4th overall on the Gurston Top 10 Challenge table. Back now to Tony.
On with James Blackmore. James has been coming to Gurston down on a regular basis this year, and as a result of that and some very good finishes, is lying in 2nd place in the Top 10 Challenge. James, any chance of taking 1st?
There's an outside chance. I'm 100th behind John at the moment, but he has to come 3rd and I've got to come 1st, so there's an awful lot riding. I've got to gain a few hundredths and somebody else has to get quicker, so it's not looking particularly good, but I'll certainly be trying again on the next run. Definitely.
So you've got to work your way past Simon Marsh to achieve that win in the challenge then?
At the moment Simon Marsh is in 3rd. And I'm 2nd to John. So it's possible, anything's possible, and I'll be trying like crazy, I promise you.
Well, we'll certainly look forward to that, because it's certainly some spectacular runs we've seen from you this season. And you've become a regular here. Prior to that, you were a regular at Harewood, but have since relocated.
Yeah. Well, I'm a Yorkshireman, but job relocation, etc. I now live near Winchester, so very kindly, Gurston have adopted me as a local.
Well, it's great to see you down here, but you had a lot of success up at Harewood as well, didn't you? Won the championship the last 2 years?
I've been the FTD champion up there for 2 years running. I hold the class record, so it's been my home, and it's been great. But I do go back there a couple of times a year, just to have another crack at the record. So I'll keep trying.
Well, great to see you down here at Gurston, James, and we'll look forward to seeing that last run, see where the challenge finishes up, and best of luck.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Airline pilot James Blackmore has really adapted well to his new home hill in the south of England. He's a regular winner of Gurston's 1600cc racing car class in his OMS Hayabusa, and at the halfway mark today he leads the class by over a second and a half. Just 100th of a second away from pace setter Simon Marsh, he's also in with a shout for this year's challenge title, although John Forsyth and Dave Gardner in their Pilbeam V8 have yet to take their final runs. The class wins in the bag, but 29.68 is slower and might just leave the door open. Tony assesses their chances as he talks to John Forsyth.
John, all to play for this afternoon. How was the first run?
Well, it was okay apart from Ashes, which all got a bit leery, and I didn't get a very good slingshot out, and it sort of told on the eventual time. But I just need to be a bit more cool and collected elsewhere, and see what we can do on the second run.
I think there's been a lot of pressure on a lot of drivers today in both the championship and the challenge, and their first runs have been a little on the tatty side. Steve Butts has gone on and done a superb run to take the lead in the championship, but I haven't seen the other guys' runs yet, so the second run's accounting for him. You're going to make it count for yourself.
Certainly am. Okay.
John, best of luck. Have
Thanks
a good run.
very much indeed.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here's Forsyth's driving partner Dave Gardner on the line with a Pilbeam V8. There's almost 600 horsepower available from the car's ex-Formula 1 Cosworth DFZ, and Gardner unleashes it all as he rockets down the hill into Hollow. Only last weekend Dave took an outright win at Wiscombe Park, so he's a man on form. Marsh still leads with the 29.31, but a win here today would give Gardner the title. It's a superb run. 28.81 takes FTD, and Gardner wins the 2008 Gurston Down Top 10 Challenge.
We're with Dave Gardner, first full season in the Pilbeam, and has managed to clinch the Gurston Top 10 Challenge at the last round, coming through from third place to first. Well done, Dave.
Thanks very much.
Great run that, fastest time of day as well to clinch that. Very successful season for you. Any ideas for next year?
Yep, more of the same hopefully. John's kind enough to let me drive again with him next year, so hopefully more of the same.
Plenty of satisfaction from this season, Dave?
Yeah, lots of good results. Yeah, the team have worked really well. Yeah, John and I have both had some good runs.
Yeah, the car's certainly gone well this year, hasn't it? It seems to have been absolutely sort of on the button most of the time. One or two technical problems at Wiscombe, but other than that, a really good season for both of you. Swapping FTDs, I guess.
Yeah.
What's the overall score between the two of you?
I'm not sure actually. I'm not sure exactly how many there are, but we have done pretty well between us this year.
Too modest to count, I hope.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, Dave. Well done. Congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing what you're up to next season.
Thanks very much.
So a delighted Dave Gardner takes his first ever Hillclimb title. Co-driver John Forsyth backs him up well with second FTD and second place in the challenge. But James Blackmore couldn't quite squeeze that little bit extra out of the tiny OMS and had to settle for third place, leaving the up-and-coming Simon Marsh and Gurston regular Peter Sexton in his own OMS tied for fourth. Now with Steve Butts on the line, this is the showdown for the 2008 Gurston Championship title. This run has got to count, and that's a good clean start in the Elise. Now it's full power down the hill into Hollow, and this time he keeps the car firmly on the narrow ribbon of tarmac, holding the power on deep into the carousel braking area. It's a bit of a scrabble through the tight centre section, and Steve knocks the wipers on as he twirls away at the wheel. Up into Ashes, and he's on course for another quick run with just the finish straight and the swerve over the line to go. The finish comes up, and he's made it in 33.94, but it's nowhere near his best time this year. Will it be enough? So it's all down to Jim White. He's led the championship all year, but the 2008 title hangs on this run. That's a much better start from Jim. No missed gears this time, and the car looks more stable as it hurtles down the hill and through Hollow. All Jim has to do to take the title is to repeat the time he set here in July. His own record is 36.29, and now he just needs a 36.73. It sounds easy, but conditions are not quite so good today, and Jim's really working hard to screw the absolute utmost out of this unique, more-speed tuned 16-valve Mini. Out of ashes and heading for the line. A 36.73 will beat Butts to the title, and he's not done it. Steve Butts takes the 2008 Gurston Championship by just 0.08 of a second. So after another close fought Gates of Brockenhurst Gurston Downhill Climb Championship, Steve Butts takes his third title on the Wiltshire Hill in his Elise. After leading all year, Jim White has to settle for second place, while Andy Bascombe snatches a final podium finish from outgoing champion Mike Rudge. Anthony Orchard's perseverance is rewarded with fifth place, while as a consolation prize for Father Jim, Stephen White brings the Mini home for a second top six placing.
Steve Butts, 2008 Gurston Hillclimb champion. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Steve, you put some pressure on yourself with a spin on your first run. That second run, how did you approach it?
A little bit cautiously, because there's some of the front aerodynamics were ripped off in the accident. But I had a comfort brake just at the bottom of the hill, but still did a good time to the split. Made a mess of carousel and put my windscreen wipers on when my hands were everywhere, but I seemed to get it together and get to the top, which was what I didn't do on the last run.
So the pressure was still there. Now you won the championship by 0.08 of a second. Not a comfortable margin, but a lot bigger than some of the margins you've won and lost championships by before.
Yeah, it seems quite comfortable compared to the 0.01 that I've won and lost the championship to Jonathan Gates in previous years. So 0.08, that's country mile.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, bad luck to Jim, but you've had a great tussle all year, haven't you?
Good. So he's got to watch out for me next year as well. So I still think I've got a little bit more to come.
Plans for next year then? Any tweaks on the car?
I may just sort the roof out, because obviously I've got to get a new one now. Perhaps take some weight out of the car. There's still some weight to be saved. The power is about as good as it's going to get, so there's not much I can do with the engine. So it's just weight. I can take some weight out of me. I'm about 10 kilos heavier than I have been. So my girlfriend's laughing over there. I have to say thank you very much to my girlfriend.
Steve, well done. Congratulations. We'll look forward to see what you come out with next year. And
never know, it might be a different car.
You never know. We'll watch this space.
Okay.
Well done.
Thanks very much.
Cheers. Well, that's the end of a fantastic 2008 season at Gurston Down, with Steve Butts as champion and Dave Gardner winning the challenge. We've got to offer our thanks as well to the marshals that helped support this event so well, the Southwest Centre of the BARC that run a superb venue, and of course the drivers that have entertained us all season. So we look forward to next season, and thanks for watching.